crazy experience. And I'm like, that's why people don't trust realtors. And it had nothing to do with real estate agents, but it was an experience at a restaurant. And I'm like, wow. So here's what happened. I'm just going to tell you what happened. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Good to see you. So we went yesterday morning to Hermosa Beach. We went down to the Pier Plaza, and there's this restaurant it's a bakery, and you kind of walk in, and then you stand in line, you order what you want, they give it to you, and then you go find your own table and find a place to sit, that. And I'm like, no, I want to. And so I told Julie, I want to go to a place where we can sit down, have a good sit down breakfast, and they serve us, and I like my coffee, and I want to be my coffee to get free refills, where they come and fill it for me and all that. So let's go to a sit down restaurant. So we're walking along. I went to the first one. It was like a 20-minute wait, and then the next one was a 45-minute wait. We go, this next one, it's 5-minute wait. Okay, 5 minutes, perfect. So 5 minutes, we're going to sit down. And about 15 minutes later, they finally call us, and we'd gone up and checked, and they're like, yeah, we just got slammed, and we're busy, and all this kind of stuff. And so we finally get seated. So now we're seated. They say, can we get you anything to drink? And we're like, yeah, let's get. With the hostess that seats us says, do you want anything to drink before the server comes? And I'm like, yeah, water and decaf coffee. And she goes, okay, fine. And so we sit down. 5 minutes later, no drinks, no water, no coffee, nobody, nothing. And so we sit down. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Good to see you. As you come on, post where you're from. So we sit there for another 5 or so minutes. Another couple comes in and is seated at the table next to us. And they sit down. Their server comes up to them, get some whatever they want, coffee and water. And I'm like, well, what about us? No server. So I finally say, excuse me, can we get some water and coffee? And oh, yeah. So finally, somebody brings us some coffee and water. Okay. In fact, the first time they just brought one coffee and 2 waters. So we're like, no, 2 coffees. Okay. So they finally get us 2 coffees. And then we're just sitting there and we're like, okay, we got our coffee and we're waiting, and no server. Nobody comes to take our order. And I'm like, okay. And finally, I'm like, I see a guy over there. I'm like, excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Can we get our server so we can take our order? And he goes like, oh, okay, I'll take your order. Well, it turns out he was the manager. Later on, I figured out he was the manager. So he comes over and he takes our order. And he says, sorry for the wait. Okay, no problem. So now remember, all this is because I wanted to go to a restaurant where they would serve me and take care of me. So now he takes our order, and we're sitting there, and my coffee is getting lower and lower because they bring me a little cup, and I'm just drinking my coffee. And I'm getting low on coffee, and nobody's coming along. So finally, the cook, from the kitchen, they bring our food out. They leave it. Anything else you need? And I'm like, yeah, I need a refill of coffee and a couple other things, but I wanted a refill of coffee and a couple other things. So they did the other things, and nobody refilled my coffee. So we're like, okay, no problem. We're sitting there, and I finally see somebody going by with coffee. Excuse me, can I get some? So they come and they refill my coffee. That's a little more complicated than that, but anyway, they refill my coffee. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we're eating, and like getting close to the end of the meal, and I'm like, nobody's come to check on us. I'm like, and I'm like, I want more coffee after I finish my meal. So I finished my meal, I want a little more coffee. And I just like my coffee to stay hot. You know how when you're at a restaurant, your coffee gets cold. And I'm like, I just want my coffee hot. Can you just do that? And so we're sitting there, and by now, honestly, I'm upset. Okay, I'm like, I just wanted to sit down and have somebody take care of us, and I'm a great tipper. Okay, I mean, a conservative tip for me is 20%, and I'm just I like people that take good care of me, and I'm like, an extra couple of bucks on the tip on top of a normal tip is like, that's nothing, right? I mean, to me, that's just like, that's serving them. So I give them a big tip. But in this case, I'm like, man, I'm having a hard time even thinking about giving somebody a tip on this. And then I'm like, I don't know who to give a tip to. And as we're getting close to the end of our breakfast, I'm like, I don't even know who to give a tip to, because we have literally at this point not had a single server, a single human being walk up to our table to do anything, to do anything other than when we flagged somebody down and said, hey, can we get something here? So I finally flagged somebody down again, get some hot coffee. And I mean, literally, my coffee is empty. It's just these little videos, a little bitty restaurant cup, and it's just empty. And I'm like, excuse me, can I get some more coffee here? And I'm like, hold up an empty cup, and they're like, yep, sure, okay. They give me some more coffee. And then we finished breakfast, and I'm like, I told Julie, I said, I don't think they're going to bring us a check. I honestly do not think they're going to bring us a check, because I don't think we had a server for our table. I think they completely messed up in their server, because there were servers everywhere. They were all fine. I mean, the ones that, and there was one lady that I heard her say, because I had to run out to the car to I left my phone in the car and ran out, and I just heard her going like, that's not my table. And I looking back, I'm like, maybe she was talking about our table. And if it wasn't, then it should have been somebody's. Anyway, so we get there, and I'm sitting at the end of breakfast, and I told Julie, I said, you know what? Nobody's coming. Nobody's going to show up. We can just walk out, and nobody would ever know. So I said, I'm just going to go up to the hostess stand, and I'm just going to pay. So I walk up there, and it's the guy that turned out to be the manager. And I'm like, we're ready for our check, but we don't have nobody's come to our table a single time. And of course, I'm a little upset, and I'm polite, I'm nice, but I'm upset. I'm visibly upset. And visibly meaning my tonality says, I feel like we have been misserved here. And I'm like, nobody come to our table a single time. I don't think we have a server. I don't think we're ever getting a check. So I'm just coming up here to pay for it. And he's like, okay, what table again? I'm like, I'm this table right here. I'm like right in front of your face. You're the one that took my freaking order. And you're like, who are you now? And he's like, okay, so what did you order? I'm like, one coffee. That's it. No, I'm not. I'm kidding. I told him the whole thing, and he gets it. He gave me a free coffee. He said, so this, and a coffee. And I said, no, two coffees. He goes like, just one coffee. I'm like, oh, you're so generous. Nobody took care of us the whole freaking time, and you're not charging me for one of my coffees. I'm really grateful. I didn't say anything. I just said, thank you. But I'm thinking to myself, are you freaking kidding me after all this stuff? And all you're going to do is give me a free coffee? And oh, by the way, I know, and a server walks up right in between us, gets right in front of us, and she says, "Sir, your mask is not over your nose." And I'm like, I try to pull my whole mask down. I'm like, what? I mean, that we're in California, so you still have to wear a mask everywhere. When I go to Texas, see my dad and my family, you don't have to wear masks. But anyway, that's a different conversation. So and so I just told him, I'm like, dude, we sat there that entire time, and I said, this is the first time in my adult life that I am not leaving a tip. And I want you to understand, because I didn't have a server to tip. There's no server to tip. I did not have a single person walk up to my table without us flagging someone down. And he was a little apologetic, and I said, I'm not going to give you a bad review on Yelp. I'm not going to give you a bad review. I just want you to have a conversation with your servers and make sure that's taken care of. So that was it. And I'm walking out going like, that, I don't ever want to go back to that restaurant. I don't. It was beachfront, ocean view. I'm like, nice restaurant. I don't ever want to go back. I don't ever want to go back there in my life. Let me ask this. Would you go back? Just type in the comments. Would you go back? Yes or no? Type in the comments. Yes or no. Would you ever go back? If you went to a restaurant that was it's not like a 5-star restaurant. It's just like Evie Johns. Hi, Evie. Good to see you. I don't think I'll ever go back. I mean, it's like, we have some good friends. They go there. They've gone there. I don't know if they still do. They used to go there every weekend for brunch. Every weekend. I'm like, no, I'm not going back. Anybody else? Would you guys go or no? Yes or no? So I'm like, man, I can't see. Oh, wait a second. There's tons of comments here. I did not see a single one of your comments, guys. Hey, everybody. No, sir. Thank you, Monica. Yep. Nope. Bad service will never get. That's exactly right. Okay. Now, Sylvia says, yes, always give a second chance. Okay. And I will be honest. Sylvia's probably right. Right? I mean, like, I remember my granddad would never, if he had bad service, he'd never go back. And I remember my dad was like, look, if you have a bad server or one oversight, it doesn't make it a bad restaurant. And that is true. Okay. Hyacinth said, I would, things happen. So here's the truth. That is why people don't trust realtors. What is the number one complaint that buyers and sellers have about realtors? Answer, they never return my phone calls. Okay, they never return my phone calls. So she gives them 2 strikes and you're out. Good, Sylvia. I like you. I'm like, I don't, but I honestly, it's not that I'm like, okay, I'm not going out there trying to trash them. I'm not telling you which restaurant it is. I'm not putting any bad reviews on them. I just don't want to do that. I like giving good reviews. I think I've never given I don't remember ever giving a 1-star review to anybody. I'd rather tell the owner or the manager, look, here's what I want to say on Yelp. You need to know this is my experience, right? But I want to do it in a way that helps them. And yet at the same time, I guess I'm serving the public when I warn them and go like, this restaurant sucked. But anyway, it was just my experience for that time. And I felt like totally disrespected. I felt I was upset. So my wife's unhappy that I'm unhappy. She's unhappy at me for being unhappy. She's like, just be with me. And I'm like, I know, but I want coffee. So I'm not justifying what I did at all. I'm just saying that's just the way it goes. That's just what I felt. And this is what happens with realtors. They don't show up. They say they're going to do something, they don't do it. People don't trust realtors because realtors don't return phone calls. They don't do anything. And I'm like, that experience at the restaurant was exactly the way a lot of people feel about realtors. Is if you say you're going to show up and you don't show up, or you show up later, you don't call back, you say you're going to call me back, you say you're going to follow up, you say you're going to do this and you don't do it. And that happens over and over and over again. Here's the number one secret to success: show up, show up, show. We know this at every Agent Mastery Live. By the way, Agent Mastery Live is coming in May. Agent Mastery Live, which is our next 3-day interactive virtual training camp. It is insane. I mean, we literally, at the last 2 virtual ones we've done, we literally have people showing up and getting appointments, listings, and sales during the 3 days. It's that powerful. Okay, we're going to be focusing on doubling your listing power. So we're going to be focusing on how to get listings in this crazy no inventory market. So if you have not yet signed up, go to agentmasterylive.com and get your tickets. Right now we have early bird prices on our tickets. So make sure you jump on there now because they're about to go up. So agentmasterylive.com and get your tickets. Now here's the thing: if you get your ticket, show up. Are you kidding me? We know that when we sell tickets, people pay us hundreds of dollars for a ticket to come to an event, and we know that 15 to 20% of them are not even going to show up a single time. Isn't that crazy? They're going to pay hundreds of dollars for an event, for training to get better. And I know what our training will do for you. It will help you make hundreds of thousands of dollars more if you implement it. And they'll invest, they'll commit, and then they won't show up. Secret number 1 to success: show up, show up, show up. And I will go to a restaurant yesterday and nobody showed up to serve us. Nobody. We flagged people down. Nobody. I don't want to ever go back. Same thing. People do that with realtors, and they have a bad experience. And half of them, just like you, say, no way, I'm out. I'm not ever going to give you another chance. Others will go, well, I'll give you 2 chances. I'll give you a second chance. You mess me up twice, I'm out. Okay. But even after if you do give them a second chance, you're still going in knowing that, okay, they messed me up last time, I'm going to give you a second chance. But we go in with a little bit of skepticism, with a little bit of our radar is already on, looking for, are they actually going to do what they say they're going to do? And that's what happens to realtors. Now, here's why it's an advantage for you. Here's why it's so good for you, is because all you got to do is show up. And you're ahead of half the realtors out there. All you got to do is do what you say you're going to do consistently, and you're already ahead of half the realtors out there. And here's the second part. Good morning, guys. Whoever that is. So somebody, good morning, everybody. Okay, if he would have said, I'm sorry, it won't happen again, please come back and say hello, and I'll make sure you get the best experience. Zach Pickett, see, that's an awesome thing. He said, I'm sorry, okay? But then he just basically took it as a loss. What you just said is, how do you take a bad experience and turn it into a win? So I really like this. You guys, if you have any great comments like this, if you're as smart as Zach Pickett, Zach, you're my favorite this morning, man. That was really, really good. He said, if you had, all this guy had to do, this restaurant manager, if he just said, look, I'm so sorry that happened. It will never happen again. Please come back. Give us another chance. Make sure when you get here, say hello to me. My name is Mark or whatever. And I will make sure you get the best experience. That right there. Let's give him a thumbs up. Can you guys give him a thumbs up for Zach Pickett? You can maybe you can thumbs up that comment. That's a really, really good comment. Hey, Verna. Hello, Clint. Guys, I'm telling you that you get to choose the experience you create. Okay. You get to choose the experience you create, and you create an experience with people. And when you show up and you do what you say you're going to do, you get trusted. And trust is the crown jewel of real estate success today. If you want to win, you got to get people to trust you. The reason Zillow is so powerful today is because they are trusted. And they're just trusted because they're considered reputable. They're well known, they're big, they're everywhere. And so people just trust McDonald's. McDonald's sells poison, but people trust it because they recognize it. Okay, because they've been around a long time. You have to develop trust. It's the crown jewel. And you know that, and what you got to know is that half of the competition, other realtors, i.e., is not really competition, but because they don't keep their word. They don't do what they say. You're going to say they're not consistent. They don't follow up. You got to show up. Now, here's the second part of this. So number one is just show up. Number two is then master how you show up. Master how you show up. So the other reason people don't trust realtors, one, they don't show up. They don't do what they say. They don't return their phone calls. They don't do what they said they were going to do. They drop the ball. That's incompetence. It is irresponsible. And so people don't trust them. But the second reason that people don't trust realtors is because of how they show up, meaning they show up, but they don't know what they're doing. They're incompetent. They use BS, or they use incompetence. They just don't know the answers, and so they stumble their way through it. So it's not just showing up, it's how you show up. So show up as a master, show up as the greatest. The reason I train my company is called Yes Masters, is we train you how to master getting yes without the BS, training how to be the best at what you do, to be a master of not only getting yes, but a master of being able to get yes for your clients, to get them the success that they want, to help them get their house sold for the most money and so forth. So this is how showing up, and then how you show up. At Agent Mastery Live, the reason I train is to help you master how to show up. You got to do step number one. You got to show up. Okay, that's the first step. When you go to agentmasterylive.com, get your ticket. Early bird pricing, it's insane value, and it is going to be an insane 3 days, and I guarantee it. I mean, I just you come if after the end of the first day you do not agree this is the best real estate training I have ever had in my life, anywhere, the best training I've ever had in my life, then you just send us an email. We'll give you 100% of your money back. It is that powerful. So go to agentmasterylive.com and get your early bird ticket. Make sure you get it now. And so you're going to learn in those 3 days is how to show up in a way that people don't have the ability to tell you no. They don't want to tell you no. They want to tell you yes. How to find the motivated sellers and how to get them to want you as their agent. That's what you're going to learn over the 3 days of Agent Mastery Live. Go to agentmasterylive.com. So 2 things I want you to focus on right now. 1, always show up. Do what you say you're going to do. And number 2 is how you show up. Okay. I could go into a whole different story of that, going to servers. By the way, so last night we went with a couple that are in our inner circle, and we went to a restaurant in Manhattan Beach called Arthur J. Now that is a restaurant I recommend. First is Julia and I live here. We've been here for 10 years, and it's our first time to go to this restaurant. It was so good. And the service was like, this guy named Mike was our server, off the charts. He came to our table dozens of times. And, compared that to our experience in the morning, not only was the food better, the service was off the charts. And guess what else? The bill was over 10 times higher at the restaurant we went to last night. But I'm delighted. I would much rather pay a bill that was about nearly 15 times higher, our bill last night. But But guess what? When you show up and you know how to show up, you become the best at what you do, you can charge more. Okay, just like in restaurants. Not you go to all restaurants and expect the same price. You know, people think, look at real estate agents and they don't like paying full commission, but the reason is that they think you're all the same. They think you're all the same. And if you're incompetent, you are. Okay. But you don't mind paying exactly because I expected awesome service and good food, and I know going, that's what I'm going to get. So I'm willing to pay more. I don't just look at it and go like, well, I ate another restaurant this morning and they didn't charge near these prices. You guys are so ridiculously expensive. Right? But a lot of people do that. Okay. And by the way, the cheap restaurant was the one that had ocean view. The expensive restaurant was the one that didn't have ocean view. Like, yeah, well, you don't have ocean view. Right. But our food is great and our service is awesome. You want the best food and that you want ocean view, walk right down the street there to the beach and you can see the ocean. All right, guys, that's it. Show up great, show up every time. Join me at agentmasterylive.com. Go get your ticket, agentmasterylive.com. Get your ticket, early bird prices. Don't miss it. We'll see you soon. Play to win and always expect yes.